So I'm here at the LSU Ag Center Hammond Research Station for the Margie Jenkins Lecture Series and Spring Open House. As we've already discussed, we've gone virtual this year due to the COVID, but we're cautiously optimistic we'll be able to come and bring you this content in person in the future. Typically, for the Spring Open House and Lecture Series, we'd have some wonderful guest speakers come in and give you talks, and you could walk around the gardens and visit. That isn't the case this year. So what we're going to do instead is unveil this website. So we really hope you take some time and peruse the website, look through what we've did, all of our trial ratings, and give us some feedback on what you think. We're very excited about our new website, the web application for the Hammond trials, and the ability to bring you all of this data in real time at your fingertips whenever you want. So as you may very well know, the lecture series is named after Miss Margie Jenkins, who is a very important person in the Louisiana horticultural world, in the nursery industry of the South, and just for her love of plants and her contributions to horticulture in general. Now, unfortunately, Miss Margie passed away last year at 98 years old. And she was such an influential person to our industry and to this research station, these gardens. We wanted to do something special for her and have a bit of a memorial or a celebration. Now, as you also know, last year COVID was pretty bad, and so we did not have the Spring Open House and Margie Jenkins Lecture Series in 2020. So instead, what we've decided to do is we're going to bring it to you, and we're going to visit with some of Miss Margie's close friends and colleagues and get their input on how Miss Margie influenced them, the industry, Hammond Research Station, and the nursery industry in the South entirely. Thank you, and enjoy.
Miss Margie just had a knack of picking out interesting plants and conveying the good qualities of plants, and even native plants that I thought didn't have any value per se. Selecting and looking for just small, minute diversity or traits in plants. That's what I learned from her. Even the most common plants, yopon, whatever, looking for that significant little change that most people would never even consider different. But you can take that change, that small trait that shows up diversity, and you can perpetuate that in the future with plant breeding or growing from seed and selecting. And she was very insightful in that. She could see plants in the future in 2 or 3 seedling generations. She always looked forward. She never, she said that's just the past. She was always a forward-looking person, about everything, in life, and positive and concerned about people. She loved to travel. We traveled so many places, and she was just a joy to travel with. She knew so many people. Many people would receive a birthday card from her every year. And I just think that I can't even remember my own birthday, but she would write a handwritten card to many people, and I still have those cards and I cherish them. The thing that I always was amazed about her was her public speaking ability. Even in her 80s and 90s, when she got up to give a talk, she covered every point. She's only been gone for about a year. However, when someone asks me about a plant or I get stumped on a plant, I don't know what the name of it is or something about it, I don't know, my first thought is to call Miss Margie. That has happened 3 or 4 times, and I catch myself, realizing that she's no longer with us, and that's how much I depended on her. She was willing to give that knowledge to anyone, give plants to anyone. Like she always told me, if you're gonna give somebody something, give the best to them. That was her thing, and she would. I've seen her when she'd be in a group of her seedlings or whatever, and she would literally give one of her best seedlings away, and I was like heartbroken because I kind of wanted that seedling, or cutting from it.
A typical visit to Jenkins Farm and Nursery to see Miss Margie or visit with Miss Margie would be a nice welcome at the office. If she was not at the office, you would have to go to the back 40 and find her. And then when she saw you, she would say, "How are you doing?" and what new plants have you seen lately? And then we would go and look at plants in the propagation house and what she's working on. And then she would say, let's get in the golf cart. Now, I would offer to drive the golf cart, but Miss Margie does not like other people driving. She wants to drive. She needs to be in charge. So we would ride around all the perimeters of the container yards, and Miss Margie would look into the middle of the container yard and spot a plant and say, Alan, you need one of those plants, or take one of these plants to the station. And she would pick up that plant and bring it back to the golf cart. Although I would want to pick up a plant for her and take it, she wouldn't let me do that. She had to do that. And then we would go and look at some of the rare plants in what I always call the back 40 at the nursery, where she had these plants tagged, and she was going to plant this plant somewhere, or she was going to propagate this plant and get it distributed to folks. And then if you were there about lunchtime, you usually got some lunch and you got some cake, or you got a little snack. And so that was always convenient. And but Miss Margie was a treasure, and I don't know how she got much business done, considering all the visiting she did with all of her friends and customers every day at the nursery. It's not often that you find somebody in the industry that is so well known and so well liked and so well respected. And also, the main thing about Miss Margie was she shared her information with everyone. She shared plants with everyone. She knew everyone. She wanted to stay in touch with everyone. She wrote letters to everyone. She called everyone. She always had time for you when you came to see her.
I brought her a plant that I had found in the woods just near here that was obviously a leucothoi, but I didn't know what it was. Margie said, Rick, it's in Godfrey's book. Now, Godfrey, you have this book, was a teacher in Florida, a university instructor who wrote one of the best books for the Gulf South, Trees, Shrubs, Woody Vines of the Florida Panhandles. And I have that book. It's behind my desk on my bookshelf. Had I read it? No. Had Margie? You betcha. So there is the industriousness that I think is separate from so many of us. Many people, from landscape contractors to other growers and garden centers, owe a lot of credit somewhere in their experience to what Margie did for the trade, for the community that is the nursery business. One of the things that Margie is greatly known for, with me, it was the native plants, and certainly she was a part of the native plant movement when it became popular, and she was very, very involved with that. But her, of course, was an azalea expert. When the nursery industry suffered a couple of big freezes in the 80s, it really damaged her nursery. She knew, with her experience with the American Nursery Azalea Societies, that there were cold hardy azaleas being grown especially in up east in Maryland. And so she sourced and brought down and introduced all of us to the Robin Hill azaleas, among others. These were all cold hardy azaleas. The fact that there was an alternate season blooming was just another great benefit, and that really has changed the way a lot of people landscape. She then, of course, took some of those, and she found one sport that she named after her son, who passed away, and now we have Freddie Azalea in the trade because of an opportunity taken because of a disastrous freeze. We all should remember that. She had, we said on the plaque that's in the Margie Jenkins garden, a passion for plants and plant people. And those three words, the passion, the energy that she put into things, the plants, that there were a world literally of things out there that had to be appreciated and cared for. And then, of course, plant people. She never missed an opportunity to introduce you to anybody who was at her nursery if you went there, or if you were at a trade show, she would say, do you know so-and-so, or let me introduce you to this person. It was about the people, the plants, and the passion. One of the plants that we and I talked about was downy serviceberry, the Amelanchier arborea, that is our native serviceberry. You can buy serviceberry all over it, and she said she was trying to find that plant. So I set out on a hunt. I had collected it in my forestry classes at Southeastern, and I knew it was in our woods. So I went and found one. This is it right here, and I moved it up and put it in front of the office here. So as that plant began to grow, I collected the seeds off them. I took those seeds and gave them immediately to Margie so she could grow those out. And she grew those things out. I did that for about 3 years, and finally she said one time, she said, "Rick, you know that thing roots." I never had tried that. You know, I mean, it's just one of those things that, or her experience, she was well ahead of me on serviceberry, but we were able to do that, collect those and get those fruits. Okay, so after Margie, many years of us growing the serviceberry together, me bringing her fruit and growing them, she called me one day. She said, "Rick, I got a plant I want you to have." And when I went over there, she had returned one of the serviceberries, and I was able to plant that in the ground here at my property. So this is the circle that is important to this community, to this trade. We give, we share, and it comes back around to you. And in fact, this plant has set fruit this year. So I'll get seeds off the tree that Margie gave me from the seeds that I gave her years ago, and we'll have serviceberry. So of the many plants that Margie turned me on to and turned us all on to, Ilex cassine is a native holly that's an evergreen in our woods here. And there's many of them in the trade. It's been used for years in breeding. Well, she, because of her connection with landscape contractors, had a friend of hers who was a landscaper in St. Tammany that went and did like I did, go find something and bring it to Margie, and brought her cutting wood of an Ilex cassine that came from near Covington. And she propagated it and named it and called it St. Tammany. And so after not too long, of course, she said, "Rick, you need one of these. This is St. Tammany, and this is a local cassine." And she gave me the plant, and I've continued to propagate it. And now we have a crew of them that is her plant. But as much as anything else, I like that the input that she gives so many of us has made me then go, well, go in the woods and find other cassine hollies. So now we have 3 other selections that are local natives and very important. Even this variegated cyrilla, who my friend Johnny Marone, another landscaper, designer who probably has tremendous influence in his career over Margie's input. And John said, you know, "Rick, go find this variegated cyrilla." So that's the kind of things that the little bit of touching that she did to all of us, who knows what they grow into over time. We know that in the native plant world, that one of the best things to do is to get out in the wild and look at these things where they grow. Buddy Lee contacts me one day and says, "I'm coming to get you, and I'm going to get Margie. We're going to go get Clethra alnifolia from Washington Parish." So like, okay, I got work to do, buddy, but we'll go. And so the 3 of us wound up taking an afternoon on a Tuesday and going to Washington Parish. While we're in the woods after Clethra, I'm kind of diving back in the woods a little bit further, and I come back out, and there's Margie and Buddy standing, and Buddy, being the very solid guy that Buddy is, was standing back a little bit, real quiet, kind of had his hands crossed. Well, there was Margie with this look on her face, and it was quiet. There was a hush, and I'm like, okay, something's going on. And I don't mean to be self-deprecating, but I didn't know what they were doing. So I said, "What are y'all looking at?" And Margie says, "Look at the form on that cyrilla." Now, we're in a thicket where there's cyrilla racemiflora all over, but she, with her eye, saw this one particular form, which is a spreading, wider growing cyrilla racemiflora. I immediately went and collected the cuttings off of it. About 2 years later, I told her, I said, "You don't remember that day, but I got that cuttings, and I want to name it Margie's Eye." She looked at me right quick and she said, I don't want you to do that. I don't like that idea." She was very humble in her personal self. And so it's no longer named that, and it's now called Enon, which was a place name very close to where we are. But if you look over and look at, this is typical of what cyrilla does. It's a very large, growing, upright, small tree. Her ability to see this uniqueness and difference has allowed it to be here. It also, because we have taken her, all of us have taken her input, now I have a whole slug of natives that I have gone into the wild: arrowwood viburnum, winterberry holly, Itea virginica, or Virginia willow, more cyrilla, beautyberry, that there is now a demand for, a trade for, that in some ways she was a part of. And we're all thankful for that.